What a big, beautiful day to pass a big, beautiful bill. What's going on, guys? It's Ricky with TechBud Solutions. Hope that you guys are all having an amazing Thursday. So today, Trump passed the big, beautiful bill. I think as Americans, it's important to kind of have a better understanding of what exactly was passed and not just celebrate just because we voted for the guy, right? I think it's important to understand the pros, the cons, just like everything, right? There's two sides to every story. And I just wanted to ask the question of why were there so many Republicans that were against this bill? So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. I'm just going to explain what it is that this bill includes, and maybe you can share something that I miss of what you like or what you don't like about this bill down in the comment section. I really hope that you learned something new, and if you do, please consider dropping a thumbs up and subscribing if you feel like I earned it. Let's go ahead and at least talk about the overall market. Markets are trading sideways right now, lacking progress. Big reason behind that is what we continue to see going on with the bond market, not just in the US, but all over the world. Don't be alarmed. It's getting much worse. Bond yields are going up everywhere, making it more expensive for not just the US, but all countries to borrow money. This is a huge red flag. On top of that, again, one thing that makes me very happy is to see these rug pulls in meme coin cryptos. We all know that meme coins are complete BS, and it looks like, again, another, I don't know what SUI is, but it's going to zero, and every coin that trades under that also is going to zero, losing 92 to 75 to 80% of its value. And again, these are companies like CryptoBee says, you said it was going to go parabolic, that will continue to pump up meme coins at your cost and at your expense. Again, another great reason that there's nothing wrong with you wanting to trade something like that, but you have to understand and respect the risk. Now talking about a few trades that I took in today's live trading session. Today, as MSTR pumped up, became incredibly overbought. Made a little bit over $2,400, living myself with my one lucky share. A lot of you guys know is I like to make my money and I like to bounce. So as it became overbought, I opened up a short position. Feel free to watch it if you guys are part of LPP or not yet part of LPP. Second link in the description down below. You can join for as little as $1.35 per day. I trade live every single morning. And as it pumped up and became very overbought, I opened up a short, added more to it. And as it retraced down to the moving average, which was a pre-market support, I took profits. Like I said, I make my money and I bounce. Other than that, the only other stock that I ended up shorting today was UNH. It became overbought, opened up my short, and as it began to retrace, I'm still actively shorting this one. I'm up about $1,700. But let's go ahead and talk about where we see the market in as of right now. Markets began to rocket as it began to factor in that, yes, the big, beautiful tax bill was just passed. But why are there so many Americans or so many Republicans in Congress that were against it? Why is there such backlash behind it? So I wanted to highlight some things that were brought to my attention. So this is a big bill. It's a 1,100 page bill from Trump. And again, the centerpiece of this bill extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts, the signature legislative achievement of his first term, adding more than $4 trillion to the U.S. deficit over the next decade. So again, if you're a fan of those tax cuts, then they were extended. If you weren't a fan, they were extended. So there's two sides to the story where it either benefits you or you're against it. So nonetheless, just so you know, they were extended. Republicans have crammed in many of Trump's campaign promising last year temporary halting taxes on tips. So this is kind of more for blue collar, maybe lower workers or lower income workers or middle class, right? Now there's no tax on tips and overtime, which I think is, I don't know if people would argue that that's a bad thing. I think everyone kind of wants like the lower to middle class to do better. You guys let me know down in the comment section what you think. So customers who buy an American-made car will be eligible for a $10,000 tax break. Okay, a little bit different. It used to just be for EV vehicles. To my understanding, that is ending. So no more tax break just on EV vehicles itself. But Tesla is made, if I'm not mistaken, in the US. So I think it would almost qualify for this. So by removing the EV, now it qualifies for this. This would just encourage more, car manufacturers to be made in the US. So children born during Trump's second term can enroll in MAGA savings accounts. Launched with $1,000 from the federal government, the child tax credit will rise to $2,500 per child and is tied to an inflation until 2028. That's actually quite interesting. I would like to look more into that, especially as I have my daughter. I have another kid on the way. I have investment accounts for my daughter. I have two for her, but nonetheless, the more the merrier, right? So something that you can inform yourself more about if it's something that meets your criteria. This bill is also packed with Republican priorities. This is where I feel like it begins to get a little bit more political based off of your belief. So the border security spending will be hiked by 140 million to fund Trump's crackdown on immigration. If you view immigration as a big issue, then I'm sure that you're pro this, right? But 140 billion dollars is quite a bit. Nonetheless, again, I'm sure that a lot of people view this as something that was needed. The bill will also include $50 billion to complete the border wall that began in Trump's first term and $48 billion for new detention centers. I thought the wall was being built by Mexico, but now it's $50 billion that are going to be paid by the U.S. and U.S. taxpayers, right? Because that's really who pays the U.S. So, and then $48 billion for new detention centers, some $8 billion in budget to recruit almost 20,000 new immigration and border patrol agents. Okay, so if you're looking for a job, maybe you want to be a border patrol agent, something to look into. Pretty interesting, right? Defense spending. It will spend about $150 billion boost, raising Pentagon's annual budget of more than $1 trillion for the first time in history. That includes $20 billion for a Golden Dome missile defense shield across the U.S. I have heard of this. I need to look more into it, but pretty much it's like a dome where if anything begins to try to attack us, this is a very dangerous world. We're going to protect our citizens like never before. So again, if you're pro this, then I'm sure that this is exciting. If you're against this, then again, it's kind of something that you have to take into consideration. The White House claims that Americans are earning between $30,000 to $80,000 dollars a year and will pay about 15 cents less in taxes, while the median income for two children will gain an extra $5,000 a year. This bill has several changes to the tax code, but prevents a 22-cent tax hike for average taxpayers. So to pay for it all. Republicans have proposed sweeping cuts to Medicaid. So this is a big thing that I'm sure that if you're against Medicaid, you're happy about it. If you're for Medicaid, you're against it. I don't know if it explains it here, but it says the health insurance program that covers more than 70 million low-income, disabled, and elderly Americans, more than 8 million people would be kicked off the program if the bill passes. The legislation would also cut spending for Affordable Care Act and tighten eligibility for a supplemental nutrition assistance program, another benefit for low-income families. I can see, this obviously isn't something that I benefit from, but I can see that if I was a lower income and I was benefiting from this, this would be something that I would not be looking forward to. We have to understand and kind of just take both sides into consideration. So Democrats condemned the bill, arguing that it strips support for the poorest Americans to finance its tax cuts for the wealthiest. Okay, so I feel like we talked about it quite a bit now of what is included. The thing that I wanted to show you was a Republican actually speaking out and explaining why he wasn't a fan of this bill. And the biggest thing was the added amount that it adds to our deficit. Let me just go ahead and share it with you.
Gentlemen, Kentucky's recognized for 90 seconds. Well, I'd love to stand here and tell the American people, we can cut your taxes and we can increase spending and everything's going to be just fine. But I can't do that because I'm here to deliver a dose of reality. This bill dramatically increases deficits in the near term, but promises our government will be fiscally responsible 5 years from now. Where have we heard that before? How do you bind a future Congress to these promises? This bill is a debt bomb ticking. Congress can do funny math, fantasy math, if it wants, but bond investors don't. And this week, they sent us a message. Moody's downgraded our credit rating, and the bond investors who buy our debt and finance our debt demanded higher interest rates on the 10-year note, the 20-year note, and the 30-year note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying $16,000 of interest alone per U.S. family. And what are we telling them? Instead of taking care of that problem, we're going to give you a $1,600 tax break. Under the taxing and spending levels in this bill, we're going to rack up, the authors say, $20 trillion of new debt over the next 10 years. I'm telling you, it's closer to $30 trillion of new debt in the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we're not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg. If something is beautiful, you don't do it after midnight. I oppose this bill.
Gentleman's time is expired.
And I mean, he had a really nice end to that, right? If something is beautiful, you don't pass it over midnight. Um, yeah, that was clever. It was a clever comment. I think, let me just try to summarize it. So there are a lot of pros and cons of this bill. And depending on what side that you are on, you kind of just have to ask yourself, when it comes down to the border security, when it comes down to our national security and the increase in that budget, when it comes down to these tax cuts on lower income and also extending the tax cuts for 2017, these are all things that you need to take into consideration. Be like, do you benefit from any of it? So on and so forth. But the thing that you also have to, I think the part that is the biggest issue, right? Because my channel has to do with the stock market, the bond market, and that's the thing that he's highlighting. A lot of you guys saw that over the weekend there was a Moody downgrade. And this was one of the big reasons, because this tax bill, which was expected to be passed since Republican kind of controls the House, is that if this were to be passed, it would add more to our deficit. We're nearly $37 trillion in debt. This would add an additional $4 to $5 trillion to our deficit. And is that headed in the right direction? So that's a conversation or a question that you could only ask yourself. I mean, no one knows exactly where we're going to be headed, but I thought the whole point of this, of DOGE and this administration, was to lower our deficit, not add it. But now, again, there's huge uncertainty. Now we're adding to it, which is now there's responses. There's responses from Moody's and there's responses from our US bonds. What he talked about was the 10-year, 20-year, and 30-year Treasury have all seen an increase in the past few weeks. The reason why is because of the uncertainty of this bill passing. And if it did pass, then it adds more to our deficit, putting the US in more stress and more debt that they have to pay, and just adding to the trillions of dollars that they are paying in interest alone. So it all is based off of the response of this bill passing and the direction that we are headed. I do believe that having more security is probably good, right? Defense spending, sure, if we want to protect ourselves, yeah, that's kind of needed. But is it needed to this extent, and is it needed now? Some people might agree, some people might disagree. Nonetheless, it's something that is affecting us, and I just wanted you to have a better understanding about it. Most people are going to focus on the Medicaid. Most people are going to focus on the tax cuts for tips and overtime, which I think is definitely important for the lower class. But I think it's also important to kind of take the big picture into consideration and what position it's putting the U.S. in. Obviously, we're already $37 trillion in debt. What's another $4 to $5 trillion is maybe how some people see it. I just wanted you to understand where the uncertainty is coming from so you can make a decision yourself. I'm not here to point the finger of, hey, this is right or this is wrong. I'm just here to explain to you what I understand and why the market's reacting in the way that it is. So again, I really hope that you learned something new in this video. Maybe you have a little bit of a better understanding of this big, beautiful bill. But like I said, it's 1,100 pages. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot more that I'm going to learn about it. So I'll just make sure that I do my part in keeping you up to date. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I hope that are your thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And like I said, if you ever want to watch me trade live, second link in the description down below. And I hope to see you for tomorrow's live trading session. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.